Hey guys, today we're talking sex, fascism. I mentioned Vosh for a minute. We go see Vice for a minute. We see some alt-right guys. And alt-right guys. The one thing that you won't really see in this video is incels communicating with women and how they get dates and stuff. You'll see like almost everything around that. We're really going to be looking at conversations of how men interact with the idea of women. That's how it seems in a fascist system. The last video was kind of a dud. We're going to review 3 videos. Last video was a little bit of a dud. So just keep that in mind. I hope you enjoy it though. A lot of great stuff. Make sure that you sub. We just need 1,000 subs. And then you never have to sub again, baby. Thanks for joining me. Today, we're going to have a quick video. We're going to be talking about a few videos I found famous years ago. The topic is going to be about sex in relation to fascism. I hear Vosh talk about it all the time. You see it in a lot of media, a lot of literature. You see it manifests in many ways. Here's a few ways. You have Jordan Peterson referring to women as chaos, men as order. Men must rule to order the chaos. You kind of get what he's saying there. My favorite example would be like 1984, when the party tries to clamp down on Winston and eventually kills Winston for him having a sexual relationship with another party member, because they kept it silent, they kept it quiet, and they were obviously going against the party. That was very important because the goal of the party, and especially in that last chapter, I love that last chapter, when they put him in the Ministry of Truth, I believe it is, and they get him to say that he does not want that lady anymore. He is not in love with her anymore. And he goes back to the pub and he drinks and he watches the news. Oceania's at war, blah, blah, blah. See, the great thing about that is that it perfectly outlines the relationship between fascism and sex. Sex must be completely eliminated so that the attention span of people is not confused and that the attention economy can be back on the party, back on the fascist group. And that's how you get these people to just throw themselves in, all in. Back in the day, this would be volunteering, political organizations, and working directly with the party so that they could have a little power over their locals, or their neighbors, sorry. And now, we're not really seeing people volunteer. We're not really seeing the mega party. You know, that's the one crazy thing that I always thought would come out of mega. I always thought there'd be like some kind of political party, some kind of political presence. I'm not really talking about ICE. I mean, ICE could be it, but I was thinking something a little more social, a little more social shaming. We see people manifest their time not having sex, not building relationships, partly because the internet has isolated us so much, and partly because they're in a rage economy, an attention economy that's built on getting their emotions up by reading rage bait all day on Twitter, on X. So, what do we see? We see the relationship is that we must squash women. We need to have some form of oppression. And we can oppress women just enough to where they are active participants in some capacity, but they're also being oppressed so that men feel powerful. It's a real weird thing that these men will do when they are in a system of power like this. They will cuck themselves to the leader just so that they can eventually, so if the leader is the moon, they'll cuck themselves so that they can land on a star. Them being up this high, metaphorically, gives them so much more dominion and power opposed to the people who are still on Earth, right? And that's how it's always been. People will always flock to the nearest source of power so that they can kind of grab and manipulate that power. You know, sometimes I feel bad for the power people, you know. I might feel bad for Mao. You know, that Great Leap Forward thing might have worked if a couple smart people were kind of grasping to that. Cultural Revolution, you know, I don't know if that could have worked so well. But you know, jokes aside, we don't see sex wanting to be expressed in these communities. We shame women. We build these you know, on Twitter and X. I'm seeing these like pictures of the impossible woman. She has triple E's. She only dresses modestly. Now here's the thing. We got a white lady, blonde, wearing a t-shirt, but she has triple E's. Can't wear a t-shirt. We saw that in the Cake Girl drama. There was Andrew Wilson's wife and Emily Saves America or whatever, and there's this influencer who was making a cake in a making a cake in a white t-shirt posted online, and all of these female content creators like Pearl Davis flocked to attack her because, you know, she's well endowed in the chestal section of her body. And so the impossible woman becomes even more impossible because she's hitting all of these markers. She did dress conservatively. I mean, you know, a t-shirt can still be conservative. And they're talking about this modesty. Now, of course, these women were all up in their bunches about how well this lady looked. This is a very well-looking lady. So, long story short, the impossible woman then doesn't just become mandated by men or like this nebulous idea that kind of shoots into men's heads. You know, these men will have like these collaborative thoughts. You know, she should be wearing cuffs. I don't want to see her ankles. And as these like words come out of their mouths, it goes into like a general cloud. And then this cloud is the idea of the perfect woman. The idea of the perfect woman doesn't really exist inside of these men's heads. They're all kind of working off this collaborative effort that they made to suppress the woman. And guess what? You already have the women suppressed just enough so that they could be pick-me's. And they could help propagate this. And they can help put down women that they don't like because they personally feel threatened by. So, today we're going to look at this. We are going to look at something that has absolutely nothing to do with what I was talking about. I'm joking, of course. Right here, we're going to be talking about the insecurity of men. Now, how could these men be so insecure? They're in positions of power. They're in positions to create narratives. We see the MAGA movement. As soon as something bad happens, we have people rushing to create the narrative. So they have power, but still, all of these powerful men, what are all these powerful men doing? They're doing nothing. They're just working towards the party. It's almost like they have tunnel vision for work, and they don't have any emotional capacity to focus on outside of work. You know, domestic home life is a real phenomenon. And there's more than one man out there who believes that the woman should be taking care of that part if the man works. Realities change. Women work now. And I think that's a real threat. Because much like the threat of a different race succeeding, could you imagine working for a black person and them doing so well in a job that a black person becomes your boss? That's terrifying. But imagine, you know, we're secret about how we oppress black people. We're not secret about how we oppress women. Imagine if a woman became your boss, bro. I'd kill myself. So, what we're gonna do, look at this. Is this a perfect example? Shut up. Did we just find a perfect example?
Now the latest incident of bystander shaming. This time, it's a mom asking a woman in a skimpy bikini to cover up because her sons couldn't stop staring. Now,
depends where it is. It definitely depends where it is, but whose fault is it that the son's staring?
The mom is being criticized.
I mean, get your covered.
This is one angry mom.
Wow.
She shamed a young
Okay, you know what? She's kind of coming in hot. She's swearing.
woman on the beach for wearing a skimpy bikini.
Oh, bro, the beach? I thought this was like a park or something. What are you talking about? What are you wearing this freaking blanket? You know this blanket? Do you get it at every gas station? Ever?
See those big little boys over there? Yeah. Those are my boys. They're staring at your which is hanging out in the middle of a public place. Do you need a pair of shorts? Because I have an extra pair.
What do you mean?
I mean, get your covered. That's what I mean.
Now she's being called Bikini Karen. Yep, meet the new so-called.
I love that. How old is this? Bikini Karen 5 years ago. That's crazy. What were these people doing outside?
Karen creating a stir.
Yeah, there is.
Oria Miranda says she was enjoying a beautiful day when she was confronted at a lake in upstate New York. She spoke to Inside Edition reporter Allison Hall.
What were you wearing?
I was wearing a swimsuit.
Can you show it to us?
It was
It's a little skimpy, but like everything's covered.
this.
No question, it was quite revealing, particularly from the back. The 24-year-old student from Mexico says she tried to deal with the situation in a reasonable way.
That is skimpy.
Thank you.
It's a
I don't need my
There is
boy.
a rule that say that.
Yeah, there is. It's called nudity. You can't be nude on the beach like this. This is a public place.
Technically, the
He
butthole
was angry
covered.
because I was trying to be myself, because I was trying to do something that I
Okay, we get it. We know why you were doing it. She was going to take pictures. Hey, you know what? It was the beach. I'm sorry. Regardless, I don't know how you guys feel about this. Personally, I feel this is an example of a woman taking her frustrations out on the other woman, policing the other woman for the sake of her boys. You know, move the kids. If the kids are objectifying this woman so bad, move the kids. Kids don't need to be in that environment. And you know that that lady wasn't going to put shorts on. Again, this social shaming is a tool of fascism. Let's see. I mean, it was a skimpy bikini, though.
CNN's Donny
It was so
O'Sullivan got
skimpy.
in the cage with former UFC star turned podcaster Jake Shields to explore the manosphere and why exactly it's so popular.
They speak liberal, they have liberal friends, and then they go online and they are a white supremacist.
This is Vera Papaso.
I wonder what that means. Because, like, I'm looking at these people like, you know, I don't even know any white supremacists right now. Like, maybe Asmongold would be like the first white supremacist that comes to my mind, but he's like an American supremacist. Like, I wonder like if an American supremacist even is a white supremacist. I wouldn't say that. I don't know if I would even say if MAGA is a white supremacist group. It seems to be a different type of supremacist group. And yeah, I mean, you have Nick Fuentes. He's very liberal, you know, even before the whole coming out against Trump thing, he's been very liberal, I guess. I'm very interested to hear what she says.
She spent the last year dating far-right men in New York City for a story for Cosmopolitan magazine.
They're the most insecure men I've ever sat down with. It was really difficult to have some of these days.
Now, this is interesting, because you guys got to remember this, okay? We have the nice guy who tries to get the date, fails, incel, gives up on the whole economy. These guys are getting the dates. These guys are getting the girls. So I wonder what they have to be insecure about. You know, I think of someone like, could you imagine like someone built like Andrew Tate, even 50% built, like, you know, muscle, you know, just generally good looking? Those people should be able to clean up. I wonder where the insecurity comes from. Because again, they have so much power in this system. They have so much power. Are they insecure because they're not where they want to be within the system? I'm curious. If they were bigger influencers, would they be less? I'm curious.
It's because they were so insecure because they don't really know who they are and they don't know how to figure that out.
She said the men she dated got all their news and information from the so-called manosphere.
They did not listen to anything else. They're only listening to independent media and they're only listening to men talking to men.
The manosphere is made up of macho podcasters and influencers.
Interesting. They didn't know themselves. What a very interesting way to phrase that. Because these men are kind of like cutting what they would be interested in. Their interests are being cut out of the shapes that are, of course, made by the manosphere community. How would I say this? How would I say this smarter? I would say that these lost people are going all in on the manosphere. Like, this is old news, right? We're in 2026. If you're listening to the manosphere, you're a clown. But for the people who fell victim of Tate's words, they kind of like treated it like a religion. You know, we're not going to talk about how the religions are being treated nowadays and how they're being executed nowadays, but they kind of treated this stuff like a religion. It really makes you wonder, like, this is not an insult, but being a free thinker might just not be the play for people. I know I need structure. I'm an absolute fool when I have no structure. That's why I love working. It gives structure in my life. So maybe there are people who are just really lost, like really, really lost people. I don't think it's sad. I just think it's sad that this was what was available.
There's no such thing as an independent female.
Most women have zero concept of like money.
Females don't have independent thought.
I'm sorry. And then this with the juxtaposition of the Louis Theroux documentary, love it.
It's a space where UFC fighters are among those who reign supreme.
They love the UFC guys. They love the MMA.
Very gay, very gay. I don't care. I love gay. I am gay, only spiritually, but very just attracted to the men's body, attracted to the hitting, attracted to this, attracted to the power. Oh, man in the suit, very gay stuff. That's okay.
MMA guys, because those guys do what they can. They're modern gladiators. They're badass.
Badass like Jake Shields, a former UFC star turned podcaster.
Sorry. Now I'm starting to feel nervous. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
Who I met at an MMA gym in Las Vegas.
Like all great MMA pros.
Why are we listening to people with CTEs?
I've never hit anyone in my life.
I'm not punching back. Hit me. No, I sit right here. KO, KO, KO.
This is CNN. You miss.
I will say, I've only read Jake Shields' crazy people tweets, but he looks like a nice guy. That was nice. That looked like a lot of fun.
In full-time pro, like in terms of.
You know, of course I miss it. To go from professional athlete, which is
Look
the
at that
highest of
ear.
highs, to retirement.
Bro, that ear looks like a dumpling. That doesn't even look like cauliflower ear. That looks... Get the chopsticks out.
And I guess the
podcast has helped. You could fall into depression if you just go from the most amazing career where you're famous and spotlights to all of a sudden you're a nobody.
Sure.
Like other podcasters in the manosphere, Jake regularly hosts controversial guests.
And I named the podcast Fighting Back. I feel like we have to fight back what we're told we're allowed to do. I just don't like to be told you're not allowed to talk to this person. Like, why can't I talk to him? I'm not saying I agree with his ideology, but I should hear what he has to say.
The problem with talking to dangerous people is that these dangerous people are able to run game on stupid people, thereby getting the message out and kind of making the message sound good. I'm not calling this guy stupid. I read his tweets. I am no fan of his tweets, but I will say this about him. I will. Him hosting people might be out of his depth. Joe Rogan hosting these fake doctors. Have you seen these doctors? They're talking about nitroglycerin and Serba, blah, blah, blah. Like all these words. I don't know these words, but they're scary. They're very scary words. And Joe Rogan's like, oh, really? Whoa. I never thought COVID was fake, but they asked me to stay inside for a month, so it's obviously fake. You know what I mean? Rogan's, tricked. Now here's another trick that I remember. It was in this thing called the Skeptosphere. Okay, the Skeptosphere had Andy Warski. Now, I don't know if you know Andy Warski. I think he's in Kino Casino right now. He used to have this YouTube channel where he was making a movie called Dark Hand, and then he did this podcast with another guy named Fluffy Talks. It was Turd Pants. I've watched Andy's career for probably 10 years now. I'm not surprised where he is. I'm happy that he's successful though. Now, Andy was in this group with like Brittany Venti and Mr. Medicare and maybe JonTron. I don't think JonTron. I think he was doing his own thing. He just got wrapped up in it. Where they were like kind of like questioning the official narrative under the Trump one ad. They were questioning like, oh, is it really SA to do this? Oh, why should we have to listen to COVID stuff? Oh, like just really stupid stuff. Anti-woman, like feminazi and Gamergate, kind of, cringe like that. So they had that. They had a child lover who was convicted for Love and Child Pictures, Amo Shi. And he came onto this area, right? And the skeptosphere was intellectualizing unintelligent ideas. So you had a lot of people who were like working to kind of justify things that like on its face you'd be like, that's awful. For example, there's this guy, JF Gariepi. He's called Love, you idiot. JF was dating a 19-year-old who was deemed by the courts unable to live by herself. She was living with her parents the whole time. He swept her up. He tried to impregnate her in the course of 3 weeks or 3 months. The courts got involved. There was a guardianship applied to her. She had special needs. Then JF went to marry another special needs woman. Maybe he killed her. JF is crazy, bro. Maybe he killed her, put her body in the woods somewhere. Mama JF is no longer here. She left us. She said, I can no longer do this. Can you drive me to the woods with no cell phone? Yeah, I believe you, JF. Anyways, so she's dead somewhere. Like 1,000,000% she has to be dead. I would be very happy if she wasn't dead. JF is going after these, intellectually disabled women. And the skeptosphere is like, well, she is 19. So Destiny, the streamer, comes in and he's talking like, no, what JF is doing is very predatory. And Andy Worski is like, oh, well, she's 19, Destiny, she's 19, right? So you had these people here, right? They were trying to intellectualize stupid ideas. That whole setup was just made for this. There was a guy caught for kid loving pics. His name's Amo Shi. Went into that space, debated with everyone, and no one could out-rationalize his idea that kids can consent. His whole argument really boiled down to kids can consent because I think kids can consent. Destiny talks to him, breaks it down for Amos, and they kind of like agree to disagree, but everyone saw a big chink in the armor, right? Would you allow a 12-year-old to sign a contract? That was one of Destiny's big questions. Very good. Absolutely led to the destruction of Amos G's points, and Amos eventually just was falling back to the, well, I think it is. I think it is. I think a baby can consent. Everyone thought that he was just a provocateur. Guess what? He wasn't a provocateur. So I look at someone like Jake Shields, and I just see the skeptosphere inviting dangerous people who can talk circles around them because, they obsess about it. When you have these people who are like known liars, like Stefan Molyneux, you have these people who lie. They work on these scripts in their head every day to just churn out this lie. They're going to be able to dog walk a guy like this. Jordan Peterson, Bill 106, Bill 103, whatever that 2016 stunt was, where he didn't want the government to compel his speech. Well, guess what? Jordan, you're in Canada. All your speech can be compelled. Come on, bro. Are you an idiot? Do you forget where you live? I know he forgets where he lives now. That junkie is on life support somewhere, dying, after he almost died in Russia while being on cheaper life support so that his daughter could go eat meat. Remember the meat scams Michaela Peterson was doing? Michaela Peterson, by the way, I might be going in a little harder, but she made Andrew Tate famous. Don't forget that. Never forget that. Now, what I'm saying is, this guy here, he looks sweet. He's got the big dumpling ears. He might even look cute in the way of like a cartoon or a Pokemon would. He's not beating these people who are practicing these scripts day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. It's like absolutely crazy. Now, there are times where these guys will get people to fight the script, but then even then, they will defend the script person. When Clint, whatever his name, I don't know, some guy with cancer, Clint, went to talk to Graham Hancock about history and archaeology. This Clint guy was dogging Graham Hancock. But Joe still went to the defense of Graham Hancock. I don't know if this is audience capture. I don't know what this is. what we're seeing is that there are like 12 million examples of Jake Shields. And the reason why we're not allowed to talk to these people is to protect fools like this guy. Look at this guy. This guy should be fighting all the time. He looks like a monkey. You know, I'd love to see him like adopt a new fighting style. He looks strong too. He looks strong as hell. He does not need to be the guy to be having tough conversations. And I'm so sorry. Like it's rude to say it, but you know what? Again, we are not all meant to be free thinkers. I am not a free thinker. I am a sheep. Bah! I am an absolute sheep. This guy's a sheep too. He doesn't know it though.
He's hosted the former Grand Wizard of the Ku Klux Klan.
Today I have a very, very special guest, Dr. David Duke.
Special. You know, this guy. You know what I'd love to do? I'd love to get like 12 black women of color. Ooh, women of color. Yes. We'll get women of color all to surround him and kiss him.
I know you're controversial, but I had no idea how controversial.
And Thomas Russo, the leader of the white supremacist group Patriot Front.
I've never heard of
Let's
that.
go where we disagree a little bit.
Yes, sure.
Let's hit race, because you're a white-only group?
So the organization only allows people of American ethnicity, and all Americans, I believe, come from Europe, so they're white.
Huh, that might be true, you know, except for the black people.
True heirs of the American spirit, fight on!
Yeah, no, I understand that.
But they would hate Europeans. That's the thing. They'd absolutely hate Europeans.
Talk to these guys, but I've also not brought anyone hateful. If I do, I'm going to be really, really on top of them.
But so you saying that you haven't brought someone hateful on, right? People say, well, you brought on the Grand Wizard of the KKK, you brought on Patriot Front.
Yeah.
What is the Grand Wizard, by the way? That is the dorkiest thing I've ever heard. Listen, I would like to be called the Grand Wizard. I think that's freaking awesome. But for like a racial group, don't you want to be the king? You want to be the king. You don't want to be Merlin. You want to be King Arthur. I would like to be called the Grand Wizard because, you know, I would wear cool robes. I wouldn't wear the triangle hat. I would maybe wear that hood if it wasn't like so evil. I would pretend to be like a scary ghost. Not one of these guys.
They're hateful.
No, I think those are excellent questions, but if people go and watch the actual interviews, I think they would be like, oh, this guy's not near as hateful as if I expect it.
But beautiful, beautiful. Jake, beautiful. He just said what I tried to explain. He just said, wow, you know what? David Duke, he's not that bad. You know, David Duke is not actually that bad. He's very reasonable.
But Vera says hate isn't what the men she dated were really looking for.
One of these guys brought me to a political meeting.
And did they talk?
That's so hot. That does not dry up anyone. You know, I'm thinking about going to a political meeting. I'm drying up.
Talk about politics?
Barely. They talked about, it was a bunch of men complaining about girlfriends and wives, regurgitating Andrew Tate type of advice about how...
Bro, sheep. Absolute sheep. I don't want to say anything. Listen, this is a little too personal for me, but I recently was talking to someone, and the way that he was talking about his wife really threw me for a loop. You know, I treat my wife bad. I have these like hissy fits. I'm like a big man baby, you know? But the way that these guys talk about their wives, they don't even want to talk to their wives. They hate their wives. I die. Listen, I don't know. And here's the problem. When you talk to people who talk like this, I don't know if they're trying to like shit on their wives to impress me. Like I care how they treat their wives, but it's so cringe. It's so cringe. You know, if you hate your wife, first off, I got some news for you right there. Have I got some news for you? There's a chance you're the problem. There's a chance you're not spending enough time with her. There's a chance you're a little bit of a bum. You know, I'm a little bit of a bum. If you hate your wife probably hates you too. And there's probably a lot of actions that you could do to fix that. But what she's describing right now is like they're using politics to hang out with other people, using the excuse of politics to hang out with other people. So what? They don't get like mocked for wanting to hang out with guys? You know, guys get made fun of sometimes. Is this what's happening? You know, real dudes do not mock hanging out. You know, hey, you want to get a beer or something? Why does it have to be under the guise of politics? It's so cringe, so loser. They are insecure. That's so insecure. It's disgusting.
How to train your girlfriend how to train your wife to be submissive. And so this group was supposed to be a political group, but they're talking about religion.
You know how you train your wife to be submissive? You just keep being a loser forever until she gives up and doesn't want anything to do with you. What are these guys? First off, you know that if these guys are bitching and complaining to other men, that they're not, oh, what the hell? Okay, first off, let me finish this thought. They're bitching and complaining, they're not slinging good dick, you know, they're not really doing anything to make their wives submissive, or else the wives would be submissive. Why the hell would he bring her to that cringe incel party? What an idiot. To impress her? What an idiot. And they talk like that in front of her? Clowns.
Relationship problems. And the fact that that's what most of the time was spent on, you don't need to be a neo-Nazi. You need therapy.
That's true. That's true. And remember, everyone remember how we started off this video. This is a prime example of why sexuality is tampered in a fascist system. Sexuality is tampered in a fascist system because men obsess about it. These men are coming together, lying about their fascist reason, so that they could just talk about more, like, this woman is ruining my life mentally, she's running my life, blah blah blah. Like, there's something so powerful about a relationship. There's something so powerful about a relationship that absolutely trumps everything. You know, a family, a nuclear family, should be more important than a local government, provincial, state government, federal government, global politics. You're a real man. You got a zombie survival setup going on for just your family, not for the party.
The appeal of Jake's podcast speaks to
So
a need
sad.
among young men in this country that Vera says can't be ignored.
You have to incentivize someone to want to be better. You can't just say, let's make men better. The thing about these guys is their biggest support system is online, but that also is very isolating, and isolation is what breeds hatred.
Groups like Patriot Front offer community, but
I wonder if these guys are talking
community
about their
based on
girlfriends.
racism and hate.
People
like, that's so gay. First off, again, I love gay people. Bring like 5 gay guys to me right now, please. This is so much. This is too much. Look at all that skin. You know, like looking at a picture of Superman. No, He-Man. Looking at a picture of He-Man is kind of gay, but you know, it's as gay as looking at a picture of Jesus hung up. And like, these guys are, what, praising Jesus? Some Arab who wouldn't even agree with them?
have to really think about, do you have the capacity to talk to people that you don't agree with? Because that one nice...
I don't even think that you're even there. I don't even think that the ability to talk to someone who you disagree with is even part of the conversation. That's a whole different thing. These people can't even talk to people they agree with. I bet you these people would walk in a room with everyone they agree with, and they would start arguing so that they could have a little bit of time to speak, so that they could argue. It's like, no, you're right, but blah, blah, blah. No, you're right, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Like, these guys are just touch-starved, attention-starved. They want to be appreciated for their mind, right? You know, getting appreciated for the body is hard. And as I understand from these good-looking people, that being appreciated for your body is, you know, not even everything. It's not even everything that you want to be appreciated for. You know, you want to be appreciated for your mind. Talking to people you disagree with is like to really even get to a substantial disagreement with someone, you gotta get through a couple levels of talking. Now, if I'm wearing a shirt that says left and someone's wearing a shirt said right, we could have a disagreement, but we're not disagreeing with each other. We're disagreeing with the shirts. If I have left written here, you're like, oh yeah, well, Kamala Harris would have been a worse president. And then the person wearing the left sweater talks to the right, says, yeah, well, Trump is the worst president. They're not even talking to each other. They're talking to the shirts. So to even get to this level is beyond the reach for most of these people, most of these weirdo neo-Nazis.
This conversation you might have might change someone's day enough to not have to seek out help in an online support group, which is actually a bunch of white supremacists.
By the way, I'm so sorry, but like going on like Discord and arguing with people, I don't know about WhatsApp. I think WhatsApp is like you know, like website. I've seen the predator watching videos. Going to these areas is like doing a drug. You get so addicted, and then there's a little bit of conflict there. You don't want conflict anywhere in your life. You don't want conflict at work. Imagine seeing conflict at work. You're talking about that for a month. You're talking about that for years, bro. If something like crazy happens at work. So you get this conflict, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this is great. I'm going to stay in this community for a chance to potentially see more conflict. That's what these guys are doing, right? And they're getting addicted being in a place that is not providing what they initially came for, because you can't have genuine conflict every day. You can kind of have it, but most of the time, like, the stakes are so low. So these guys are here, they're in these chat rooms. It's not support, it's like a drug. And I think that being in these chat rooms can be like support, but the idea that they have to fight day in and day out and then kind of sprinkle in the niceties is too much. It's very sad. It's very sad. Imagine going to like a Discord or a WhatsApp group and people are like, hi, how are you doing today? You know, I was really worried about blah, blah, blah. Oh, hey, I just remembered it was your birthday. Happy birthday. You know, these are things that like would totally change the game for everyone. But these guys cannot exist in a space like that, because the only way they know how to get attention is by being a provocateur online. And they are in a place where they try to be a provocateur to try to raise their excitement by arguing with people online who really all agree with them.
Political beliefs as an excuse for how they feel.
Donnie O'Sullivan is here with us now. Donnie, I'm so glad you've done this special. There's so much intrigue around this issue of the manosphere.
Oh, was there a special?
And in fact, Trump is going to the UFC tonight. How big of a role does the sport play in the manosphere?
Hey, Isabel, yeah, and look, we should point out at the start here.
I'm sorry, and with UFC, like, I'm not a big sports guy, but it feels the same as like football used to feel. The way that people used to talk about football, obsessed with the pads and everything, and how football used to permeate through everything. Now football is like interesting to a non-sports person like me, because these football guys are acting. And they're great actors too. I don't know if I've seen a football player act who I didn't like. Especially like with shows like The League, like it really helped broaden their horizons. But UFC took over, what, 2012? Went crazy style. Whenever like Chuck Liddell was kind of slowing down, that's when you started to really hear about it. It's like any other sport. I don't know if that UFC component is anything special at all. Really, yeah. I think it's just business as usual.
Here, there's tons of guys who are fans, and some women as well, who are fans of the UFC. I have many friends who are fans of the UFC. It certainly does not mean, you know, that if you are a fan of the UFC, you are falling sort of down this rabbit hole of hate and white supremacy and everything else. But what we are seeing is that there is this sort of, there is this crossover. The UFC is playing a greater and bigger role, really, in American life. Joe Rogan, who's the world's biggest podcaster, is a UFC commentator. Dana White, who is the founder of the UFC, is a prominent Trump supporter and was recently appointed to the board of Meta by Mark Zuckerberg himself, another big MMA and UFC fan. Actually fighting tonight in Miami. Trump is going to the event. We're not sure if he'll be there for the earlier fights, but fighting tonight in Miami at the UFC event is a fighter by the name of Bryce Mitchell, who recently set up a podcast of his own, and on his debut episode a few months ago, he said that Hitler was a quote-unquote good guy or a great guy. Dana White, the head of the UFC, was quick to condemn that, but you know, you can just kind of see there where folks who might be coming into this sport for one reason are a fan of fighting, and then they're getting exposed to views like Bryce Mitchell's.
I wonder if this Bryce Mitchell guy was also audience captured. Okay, so we're going to watch a quick video. Bro, this video went a lot longer. This video was supposed to be short. Why the far right are so weird about sex? Let's see. Deadly rampage. 6 murdered in shooting near campus. What's this, Elliot Rogers? Oh, damn. Oh, damn, okay.
3 kids there to perform CPR on a kid who was barely breathing is bleeding.
That deadly attack in Toronto. At least 10 people are dead.
A majority of the injured victims are women.
Elliot Rodger here. I'll slaughter every single spoiled, stuck-up blonde.
Bro, that guy is a loser. Elliot Rodgers is a loser. We all know it. We all meme on him on the internet. Le Supreme Gentleman. Real fedora energy. He's not even really fedorable, if you will. But what I gotta say about this guy is, I don't know how this guy expected to get a date. Everything that I've seen from this guy, it would always end in bloodshed.
Slut.
Police calling it premeditated mass murder.
In 2014, Elliot Rodger murdered 6 people in a terror attack in California. Prior to the attack, Rodger released a video claiming his actions were intended to punish women for not wanting to sleep with him, and men he considered more sexually successful.
That's the thing too, right? Like, we look at fascism and it's hierarchy over hierarchy over hierarchy. You know, back in my day, we used to just do a hierarchy over skin color, you know? I'd go to Latin America, and the whiter you are, the luckier you are. This here, we have like alpha males based on build, alpha males based on getting women, alpha males based on money, alpha males based on power, alpha males based on proximity to power. Like, there's just so many different lists. And they're all doing the same thing essentially, but it's all a different niche, a different nook, a different cranny that one person made just so that they could edge out a little more power over the next guy. And look what you get. You get losers. And when you get losers at the bottom, the losers start acting. You ever see this Mouse Utopia project where the mice in the society just started going crazy because they weren't able to get food, they weren't able to breed, and they were getting bullied all the time? Bro, Elliot Rodgers is basically a prime example of Mouse Utopia. But anyways, you get losers, and these losers bite back, and they got teeth. And in this country that he's from, the teeth come in the shape of an AR.
2 years old, and I'm still a virgin. This is my last video.
What?
22 years old, and I'm still a virgin. This is my last
sexually successful.
No, 22 years old, and I'm still a virgin.
What a loser, bro. What a loser. No, I'm joking, of course. I mean, I'm not joking about him being a loser, but like, who cares? Who cares how old you are? Do you think anyone cares if you have had sex, Elliot? That's your problem. Get a sex doll. Have sex with a melon. Like the rest of us. Heat it up. 3 seconds. 3 seconds, heat it up. Nice and warm. Just don't keep it under the bed.
This is my last video. Tomorrow is the day of retribution.
The following years saw a series of deadly attacks across the US, Canada, and Europe, all perpetrated by young men angry at their lack of sexual fulfillment, with many explicitly citing Rodger as an inspiration.
He zigzagged from the street onto the sidewalk, hunting his targets. Opened fire, wounding 5 and killing 2 women.
An eyewitness said a lone shooter kicked down the door of a house in southwest England, then continued down the street firing indiscriminately.
What's often been missed, however, is how these sexual anxieties and frustrations feed into right-wing extremist political ideology. Online communities which mix toxic misogyny, conspiracy theory, and fears around sexual inadequacy have become a key recruiting ground for right-wing extremist ideologies. This is why the far right...
You know what? We should just be more like Argentina. What? I understand. I wish to proceed.
I'm from London. I'm a freelance journalist here, and I've been living here for 5 years. And I'm married to a Colombian. Colombian men think they're the best lovers in the world because they've never had anyone to tell them otherwise. People used to talk.
Yeah, look.
These guys are sleeping. Starting from 11.
Oh my God.
That's crazy, bro.
No, muchas veces uno se concentra en mujeres.
You think about a girl.
Como hay veces que está
and sometimes you're just
en el acto concentrado que tiene una
thinking
burra
about the
cogida.
donkey. These guys are in a very Christian state, very Christian country, I don't know, very Christian area. So what they found out is that the women will not have sex with them. So instead of running around shooting everyone, what they did was they started having sex with donkeys. Now, I wouldn't do it, but it's probably better than someone getting shot.
Right are so weird about sex. Incels are just one branch of a much larger online subculture known as the manosphere, comprised of many different groups, all with one thing in common: the belief that men are the victims of a...
Hell yes. Bro, I need to kind of do this with my thumb. My thumbnails are all AI generated too, but the text is too big. Reveal her red flags, ignore women. Look, they're doing half the screen with feminist hate MGTOW. Hilarious. She hates everyone. They're doing half the screen, half the thumbnail with text. Too much. Too much. We want to get like a fun picture. Look at this lady. Jesus. Spanish woman. The brutal truth. They are not submissive. It's like the joke. When women get rejected. I'm sorry, did Bella whatever get rejected?
Society set up to favor women.
You are dismissed. Toxic women getting destroyed. Remember that on the internet? Tucker Carlson, Ben Shapiro destroys liberal blah blah blah. Look at this. Who's this? Bradley Martin? Is that what his name is? Feminist explodes when simping goes wrong. I don't even know what that means. The cold hard truth for men dating single mothers. Oh, and all these videos suck, bro. They all suck. They're like a worse version. You know, when you're looking for tech support on YouTube, and then you get like a perfect tutorial, like how to plug in an aux cable into something, right? Now, these ones are just like those, but like they don't help you. Here are 2 questions that can help you reveal her red flags. 1, what's your body count? Like, it's just stupid videos like that. You know, I think if you're even able to consume these videos, you're already cooked. You're done. Get out of here. We don't want you anymore. If you're watching this and you're not like immediately clicking off because it's too slow, like I mean like really slow, like they talk like fools. You know, I can maybe understand someone talking fast, blah blah blah, but like these are made for children, and adult men are watching it. Disgusting.
Within the manosphere, there are different factions and different beliefs. With pickup artists, they believe that they can manipulate.
We love pickup. I don't know too much about them, but from what I've seen, I love a good pickup artist. I love that show, Keys to the VIP.
Women into being romantically interested.
I usually have 3 renditions. One for the girls that are ripe and ready.
Did this guy really get chicks? He looks disgusting. He looks awful. No offense. I mean, he's probably like a good-looking guy. Like, I can see like maybe like a Latino businessman here once you get rid of this goofiness. But like, what's on your shirt, bro? Come on.
Those girls, less is more. Looking at you and say, "Oh, who are you?" You say,
"Is that Adam Sandler?"
Kissing now. And you go in.
There are men going their own way who generally refuse to interact, work with women.
I found that you guys are just not extreme enough. You're not going far enough. Men.
Remember, this is a good way to display power. Making sacrifices and making unrealistic sacrifices. If this guy's a successful YouTuber, he never really has to interact with anyone, even though his boss was Susan Wojcicki or whatever her name is. He's working for a woman. Hilarious. But again, this is how you move up on this hierarchy, by making stupider and stupider sacrifices. You know, it gets to the point where you're looking at this person like, you're really living this way?
We must go our own way. We must separate from the world of women and...
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just so gross. Very gross. Absolutely. Because you know what it is? It's just like, how do you not want to see a woman? I talk to these people in my personal lives who are like, women are so dumb, and they'll go on and on about how dumb these women are. And then I ask them a question about their hobbies. They sound just as dumb as any woman I've heard. It's so dumb. You know, seeing a woman, seeing my wife. Listen, I love my wife. My wife is perfect. But, you know, seeing her, I mean, that just brightens my day.
Government. I think they are all focused on the idea of males losing traction. I think this group of men in particular feels particularly...
I'm just rambling at this point. But talk about, like, really just the uselessness of everything. Fighting this war for who? You're not fighting this war for your kids, because we are never going to suppress women so much that men are able to have carte blanche again. We open Pandora's box. It's going to take a new country that takes over the whole world to push a norm that women can be legally second-class citizens. Who are you fighting this war for? Do you really care if your grandkids are in an all-white country? Or do you want to just bust a couple brown heads open, see if it's pink on the inside? It definitely is pink on the inside. But that's my big problem with these people. Who are they fighting for? They just want to fight because they're bored. They're very poor mentally. They can't contribute, right? If I can't offer something, I gotta do something. And what they're offering to the world is violence under the lie that it's for someone else. Look at this, the settlers. Is this about Israel? Does Israel really need to have settlers in the West Bank with guns? Who are they doing that for? Why are they dedicating their whole life to a country? I don't get it. I really don't get that. I don't get this whole fighting a war for someone else who you'll never see will like it. I'll tell you what war I like. The war against pollution, the environment, fixing the environment. See, that's a war I can get behind because I only have to make a couple of sacrifices. You know, some people in my personal life went absolutely crazy when they got rid of plastic straws. You know what? Get over it, okay? Get over it. The paper straw is good. Ask for 2 paper straws. The company will give you 2 paper straws. They won't charge you, okay? You pull one out when it's wet. You put a new one in. But these people are just they're so triggered by change. Change is absolutely devastating to them. So they go and buy plastic straws, whatever, you know, good for them. They found a way to make it work. But what I'm saying is, like, I only have to do a few small changes a day, and then the earth doesn't blow up for my kids. Because here's the reality of it, okay? What is it, 2050? Whites will be an absolute minority in America? I don't know. I don't know if this is real. I'm just pulling a number out of my head. But I'll tell you something. 2050, you can see mass immigration all throughout the Western world because it will be too hot to inhabit Africa. So this war that they're doing, fighting the environment because it's liberal and cringe, they're actually fighting against their other war of having no migrants enter. Those people are gonna enter one way or another. And unfortunately, this whole backward system that is at play right now is fighting against itself. And these wars are being fought for people who will never see it. The environment we will see, I will see the results of pollution and global warming in my lifetime. They will not see the results of a white ethno-state in their lifetime.
Left behind.
What unites all these groups is their virulent misogyny and hatred of feminism. They believe that feminism has ruined modern society by creating a world in which women are supposedly equal agents, thus denying men the dominance they believe is not only natural, but essential for their happiness.
My wife lets me be dominant when it comes to like eating dinner. I get to eat as much as I'd like, and she can't tell me what to do.
Feminism is seen as something that's eroding the rights of the white man, and so it has allowed both incels and the far right to create an enemy, to create an outgroup, and feminism and women fit relatively neatly into that framing.
I'm now trying to turn this tables of equality on the feminazis who have changed this country.
Is this Roy Van Den Hollander? I remember Roy Van Den Hollander. I think this is him. He got in a fight with Jim Norton on Opie and Anthony. This guy's a creep. This guy's a loser. He couldn't pick up chicks. And then he started like suing people. He started suing everyone that was calling him a loser. He is a loser. He's a real jamoke.
A disgusting communist, anti-Trump, female feminist.
Who's this guy? I don't know this guy. This guy knows all the words. Can we just hear those again? And he's got a good
Tables
smile.
of equality on the
This guy, you know, I actually don't know if it's Roy Van Den Hollander. I might just be pooping. Oh my God. Wait. Yeah, it's Roy, what's his name? Roy Den Hollander. Misogyny started in 3rd grade. Men's right lawyer killed a attorney? Excuse me? Was found dead of self-inflicted gunshot after the ambush shooting that killed. What? When he died, Den Hollander had items related to both Sexless and New York State Chief Judge Janet M. DeFore. Also typed a document that contained information about a dozen or so other women, some of them judges. 2 sources with first-hand knowledge of the material told Associated Press. Oh, he withdrew as the lawyer in his lawsuit on the behalf of a woman. Okay, I'm not gonna get into this, but yeah, this guy sucks, bro. That guy sucks. He's a loser. Anyways, let's talk about this.
The feminazis who have changed this.
Feminazi, bro. I love feminazi. Remember, like grammar Nazis too.
Country.
A disgusting communist, anti-Trump, female feminist. Got a taste of the gender equality that they clamored for at the Women's March. I thought women were so strong. I thought women were so strong and empowered.
Feminism.
These guys, oh man. These guys, do you guys remember during COVID when there was the My Roman Empire, blah, 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 and the idea was that men are always thinking about the Roman Empire every day. My Roman Empire is blah, 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 right? Whatever. Who cares? This guy's living in such a fantasy that he thinks strong is anything to pertain with durability. What would this guy do if she was punched and she didn't flinch? Or if she was hit with a bat and she didn't flinch? He'd find something else to complain about. They hate strong women. They hated Ronda Rousey. This guy, Milo, peak grifter. You know, he kind of came up on the tails of Gavin McInnes's alt-right rise to power. Remember that? He joined Anthony Cumia on the Cumia network. The Count, the one that bites, right? So he comes up with them, blah, blah, blah. He becomes like the alt-right, perfect gay token. I'm gay. I have sex with black men. Gay people are awful. I think me being gay is a real problem. That's this whole Milo situation, right? And then, you know, he got canceled for talking about him getting abused as a child by the priest or whatever. Very fitting. You know, it's one of those things like Al Capone, right? They couldn't get Al Capone for alcohol smuggling or anything, but they got him on tax evasion. And that's what they had to do with Milo, because Milo is very hot. Milo is very famous. And now you look at him, oh my God. You see that thing, 2 years ago when he was debating Destiny? Oh, he got eaten alive.
Is cancer. Thank you very much.
This is where the manosphere starts to bleed into the broader conservative movement and becomes a key recruiting ground for the far right.
The internet.
Bro, white supremacists, 4 years after Sharp, they're still marching? Okay, hello. Quick history moment. These idiots are praising people that would have stomped on their necks. Do you know how white people who didn't own slaves were treated? They were treated like slaves. They were kind of treated worse than slaves because slaves worked for free. So these white people would never have gotten hired. You know how much a slave was? Slaves weren't cheap in the latter half of slave ownership. So these people would have been less than slaves. Could you imagine being worse than a slave? Can you imagine not wanting to be allowed into a room because a slave has taken your spot? These guys are supporting those guys. The biggest enemy to white people in antebellum Georgia were slave owners. They were literal kings. They were 1%, and they ruined everyone's life. An actual cancer that extracted wealth from the land. It's so like Abraham Lincoln is a communist icon. You know, he's a communist icon because he killed the bourgeois. They were the peak of the bourgeois. Now, we're living in a time where these guys are lucky enough to have a job and they want to LARP as someone who would you know what? I'm going to get a little racist here. I'm going to get a little spicy. If I saw one black person here rooting to have the Robert E. Lee statue up, I mean, you know what? Whatever. If they go back in time, I have no sympathy. We're not going to go save them. They're going to have to go live in the shit that they think they believe in. It's embarrassing. 4 years after, you know, Charlottesville was just embarrassing on its face in 2016. But 4 years after, you know, Trump said, I condemn everyone, I condemn all the white supremacists. But before that, he says there are good people on both sides. These good people on both sides, the best non-white supremacist that wants the statue up was not marching at the Tiki March. They were writing. They wanted to get the statues put into a museum. They were not these guys. These idiots who time and again, and not just by voting conservative, but time and again are always going against their best interest just so that they could cuck out to someone who would have their heads on a pike because their bodies were in the way.
Has created people that may not have otherwise had the opportunity to meet without technology. So we've seen this in other arenas with hate groups and organizations through recruiting.
Some analysts have suggested that those most likely to join extremist movements are often not the most marginalized in society, but those who feel their positions of relative privilege are under threat. This tallies with an anxiety among some men that their historically dominant role is being eroded, and among...
Whoa. But are these men who matter? I would like to see the percentage of men who matter, men who are actually like doing something out there, who are not grifters, who are not profiting off ruining the lives of these wage slave normie losers.
White supremacists, that the white race is under threat from minority groups.
Birth rates are falling apart, we're losing our nations, we're being flooded with immigrants.
I would consider those guys grifters trying to get onto the white supremacist train. They might believe it. That guy kind of looks stupid. Look at this guy. This guy's almost a pinhead. This guy. Come on. I don't have enough time to go in on that guy. Anyways, these guys might believe it. I don't know how big they are. Weekend warriors. These guys work, obviously. And they then spend their time, shit-talking their coworkers. They never give us an argument. Bro, if you want birth rates up, give me an argument. I don't mind having more babies. I love babies. Babies are so good. You know, I don't know anyone who has babies around me, you know? So more babies could not hurt. But these guys are going like...
They're falling apart, we're losing...
They're falling... What's the joke? What's the joke? You know, I would love to know the joke. What's so funny about falling birth rates? I'd like to know what's bad about falling birth rates. But these guys are just... These guys might be in the class of useful idiots. They believe it. They're able to make a big enough platform to push the ideas. And if they're weekend warriors, they work. These guys might be who I was looking for. The productive... I'd like to see how much they make. And I'd like to see how much control that they have of their lives.
Our nations, we're being flooded with immigrants.
Nations, sorry.
We think of threats in terms of intent and capability. And the nexus where intent and capability meet, that's where you're really in danger. With incels, you always have a high intent. The capability...
Intent, capability. Interesting. Now, would he say that these guys are saying that... Would he say that the intent is being made up, justified by the capability? So when Trump says that there's illegal rapists and murderers coming into the country, and then he says the numbers, you know that there has to be a portion of that number that are going to be murderers or rapists. If Trump says 20 million people are coming in, there has to be a portion that will kill people. That's just how it goes, right? That's just how stats go. So is he saying that the intention's being made up and then justified by the big numbers, by the capability? Like, oh, 10 million people are coming in. Could you imagine if they killed all these people? They could kill 10 million people probably. Or they could replace 10 million, you know, whatever.
Ability isn't always there. When you have a high intent with not necessarily high capability, that means you have an active threat that you need to be focused on, because if somebody develops that capability, then an attack is pretty much inevitable.
Mass shootings at 2 mosques in the city of Christchurch. At least 49 people.
What does that mean? I wonder what that means. A lot of intent, but not a lot of capability. Is he talking about like, it's kind of like a boiling pot and soon it'll boil over? I wonder.
People are dead, many others seriously wounded.
The gunman moves from room to room, firing his automatic weapon for some 6 minutes, killing at least 41 men, women, and children in the first mosque.
When the white supremacist Brenton Tarrant killed 51 people in Christchurch, New Zealand, he released a self-justifying manifesto. The first line, it's the birth rates. This anxiety over so-called racial fertility runs deep in white supremacist movements, often spilling into unhinged conspiracy theories like the so-called Great Replacement.
These guys aren't having sex. They're very much responsible for the low birth rates. And unfortunately, because they're big slaves to big industry and they want to push a GDP, we got to get more workers in to get these GDP numbers rising. So these guys are absolutely causing every trouble in their life, every perceived problem.
Thinking about gender roles is absolutely central to thinking about what fascism is and what far-right politics is, because you can't really think race without thinking reproduction.
There's an obvious crossover here with many religious conservatives, men's rights activists, and incel communities. It comes down to controlling women's bodies. And incel communities. It comes.
If you keep up the horseshit, ladies, we're gonna take away your right to vote.
Down to controlling women's bodies.
Bro, like this is the power fantasy, but my power fantasy is like I get the powers of Goku and I like go fight someone. Like their power fantasy is like laughing at a woman, like laughing at a cripple, you know? Very like low level power fantasy. Why don't you daydream about aliens or something? You know, I got this great daydream where like I'm a tiger, man. You know, I have this alien suit. I have extended claws and I go and I fight different dimensional monsters. So what's this guy daydreaming about? A woman crying? I wonder, bro, we all know about the cuck. We love the cuck, right? I wonder if these guys pleasure themselves to like videos of women crying. There has to be, bro. There has to be. I bet you 5% of people in this community pleasure themselves to crying women.
And insecurities about them choosing other sexual partners.
On the forums, there are many discussions about what women should and shouldn't do. That they are looking for a woman who will stay at home, raise their children, kind of be barefoot in the kitchen and cook. But at the same time, they still refer to women using these degrading sexual terms.
Women, their physical fitness and their beauty and perfection and everything that they are expected to do is very much oriented around a passionate and beautiful submission to the joys of motherhood and domesticity, so that they can take on one of the most important roles, the reproduction of the race, the reproduction of the nation.
Jews will not replace us! If you use the term replacement, if you suggest that the Democratic Party is trying to replace the current electorate, the voters now casting ballots, with new people, more obedient voters from the third world.
But it's not just women's sexual choices that right-wing movements seek to control, but often those of their own members. The Proud Boys, one of the most...
Proud Boys started by Gavin McInnes when he was over at Compound Media, Anthony Cumia's place. He created it as a way, like as we saw in the first video, a way for men to come together under the guise of politics, but really it was supposed to be a men's club, and then it went crazy. It outgrew Gavin, and Gavin was tossed to the side because he didn't want to do this crazy stuff. Gavin was not about this. I mean, Gavin will vice signal. He'll dog whistle for the Proud Boys. But Gavin, Gavin created a monster that just ran away from him.
Prominent radical conservative movements in the US discourages its members from masturbating in a policy known as #NoWanks.
Now, I think No Wanks was before 2018. It was called No Fap. And it was a way for people to focus on their work. Kind of fitting in the same philosophy that we see, you know, women are a distraction, and women will always be a distraction, right? Because they're people that we have relationships with. So instead of getting distracted by these women, you need to focus on the goal. And the goal could be like working out, it could be the clubbing different racial groups in the head, it could be work, you know, you're going for a promotion. The idea is to really lock in and get this like evil out of you. I'm sorry, I gotta see this. I gotta see this. Is this real?
Gen Zers are doing this
But don't tell anything nice for us.
Because once that feeling comes into play and you are spiraling over the fact that maybe they haven't texted you or maybe the vibe was weird, that is not your anxious attachment. That's not because you have an issue and you are emotionally unstable. It is because you are not feeling safe and secure within the relationship. I wish all those times
His fault. Yes, he...
Okay, never mind. I thought there was mommy comforts you from she made you food. Sorry, I thought there was a I would have thought that there was some crying ASMR for men to like, what's this?
You are a Sigma man. You can appreciate dedicating time to yourself.
Okay, whatever. Okay, I was wrong. Anyways, so yeah, no faps is just an extension of this idea that we have of desexualizing life for the party, for the group, for the fascism.
#NoWanks is pitched as a way of overcoming porn addiction, developing discipline, and giving members more time to focus on their families. But policies like these are more than just a bizarre form of self-help. This is about control.
Having daily practices that connect you to a broader movement is a very effective strategy. So you're not just...
Look, NoFap 2011. I can't believe that these guys are trying to take credit for NoFap. That's crazy. Dirty thieves.
You're not just saying to people, you know, we're being swamped by immigrants, you know, if the feminists are in charge. It's saying you need to take action daily in your life and you will see the benefits.
It's now...
I don't know, I'm not smart enough, but this has something to do with rituals. Doing rituals is a way for people to affirm their ideas, affirm their beliefs, keep interest in stuff. Rituals. Muslims praying 5 times a day, that is a ritual. It's more for the preservation of keeping the religion in mind than it is for God, I would assume, right? Where you get the lazy Christian who, you know, will go to church Christmas and Easter, you'll have the Muslim who's praying 5 times a day. These rituals have a lot of power to them and help enforce the idea, helps enforce the lack of individualism, and helps enforce the idea of the party.
Time for the return of men.
The 2010s witnessed the rise of the so-called alt-right, and the pipeline between the manosphere and radical conservative and white supremacist movements went into overdrive.
The online space
and comedy, online edgy comedy was also in that pipeline.
Really is characterized by intermingling between these various factions. And as the factions have intermingled, languages have intermingled, culture has intermingled, jokes have intermingled. And this is partly deliberate because it makes it much more difficult to draw distinct lines between them. And it means that when an attack happens, it's very difficult to nail down the ideology. And if you can't do that, it's very difficult to nail down the enduring threat.
It's also probably not a coincidence that when one member of the alt-right accuses another of being not committed enough to the cause, the word they use is cuck, a sexual fetish and porn category where men watch their...
What do we think about cucks? Most of these guys are cucks. Most of these guys sneak porn, or they'll sneak the idea, or Even when they're having sex, they're not really having sex with the woman. They're just kind of like watching from afar, right? They have no interest in these women. They're just trying to get as many bodies as possible. It's kind of cuck behavior if you think about it. Being a cuck is like permanently woven to even be involuntarily part of these manospheres, these hierarchies that we spoke about earlier. Being a cuck is all a part of that. You're cucking yourself to a higher power. You know, Sigma is a real thing. You know, Sigma, the idea that you would leave this foolishness, this foolish paradigm, so that you could actually live a real life and do what you want to do, not be a slave, not be a sheep to this idea that was concocted by so many people to centralize power away from what? What are they centralizing power from? From normal people moving in? So what? You make a group to what? Fight back against the cultural power of the LGBT? You know what I mean? They're fighting again for their perceived powers and rights being taken away. But like, really, like, what are you fighting for? You're being goofy. You're being a little bit of a clown. Oh yeah, sorry. And you know, being a cuck is an absolute, you have to be a cuck to be involved in this system. This isn't work. You don't have to be here. You want to be here. And you want to be the best. And you know, most of the time you want to be right under the best so that you don't have to take any responsibility. You can just get the praise while taking no responsibility.
Partners have sex with other men.
You are seen as weak, minuscule men. And I tell my boy, men like you, those aren't men. You understand? You will be weak, minuscule men the rest of your lives, and I'm not gonna...
This is embarrassing, bro. This is embarrassing. These guys have to take it because they're part of whatever council. I don't know what this is about, but like this guy is talking down to them. He's probably got a little bit of a fucking stupid boner going on. Embarrassing. Embarrassing. Listen, these guys could be bad. These guys could be bad people. But the idea, like you're minuscule men. Like what? You're higher? You're not on the other side of that desk. These people obviously hold some sort of power over you.
Gonna let you influence the other boys in this community to be little cucks.
This is all a pretty neurotic tangle of sexual insecurity manifesting as political ideology. In Russia, the connection has become explicit, with the emergence of the violent extremist group Male State, who literally call their ideology national patriarchy. This
really? That's sad. That's sad that their country's garbage. You know, I want to like Russia. I really do. I love the aesthetics and whatever, but like the chuds that they have all over that country, the chud that they have for a leader right here, invading Ukraine, just chud behavior. I'm so glad that PayPal or whatever. I'm so glad that PayPal or whatever cut off their ability to earn money. Really, this is so crazy. They should all be punished for how bad they're acting. America should be punished too for how bad they're acting. But
so violent that they've been officially banned in Russia, though they've still emerged as some of the loudest.
Good for Russia. I'm so sorry. America was able to make these groups, and apparently Russia was able to. I'm sorry. Oh man, it's just you know, some of this Ukraine war stuff, crazy.
Supporters of Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine. This crossover of the manosphere, sexual anxiety, and the far-right Ukraine still emerged as some of the loudest supporters of Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine.
Yes. Yes. That's what these people would do. That's what the Proud Boys did for Donald Trump.
This crossover of the manosphere, sexual anxiety, and the far-right can lead to very serious violence. In 2018, Scott Bailey murdered 2 women and injured 4 more at a yoga studio in Florida.
This is brand new video from the scene from just moments ago. 2 of those people died, 21-year-old Maura Binkley and 61-year-old Nancy Van Nessum.
I'd like to talk about mongrelization. When I see an interracial couple, I think one of 2 things. Either the guy couldn't do any better, or the girl's
In 2021, Lyndon McLeod.
The girl's a what? You know, I'm just trying to think. Wouldn't it always end up with the guy not doing any better?
a rising star in the manosphere and frequent guest on alt-right podcasts, went on a shooting rampage in Denver, killing 5 people.
Going into a business, holding a gun. Seconds later, he calmly walks out. 3 people were shot and 2 women were killed at that location.
And the list goes on.
5 people of Plymouth who have lost their lives overnight, including a particularly young child.
Again this morning here in the UK, where 6 people have been killed in the worst mass shooting in the country in over a decade.
This all leads to the question, when you see right-wing extremists ranting on YouTube, posing with guns or marching with tiki torches, are you simply seeing a bunch of scared, sexually insecure men afraid of real contact?
We're, fed a steady diet of particular visions of who we are supposed to be as men, and I think a lot of that kind of that messaging and the sort of problems it creates for society and for young men leads people to start looking for consistent ways of explaining the world.
But none of these things are going to be solved by scapegoating women and immigrants, wallowing in misogyny on the internet, or most of all, by acts of brutal, nihilistic violence.
What's this?
To controlling women's bodies and insecurities about them choosing other sexual partners.
On the forums.
Wears tons of makeup because of her low self-esteem. Got a crappy flower tattoo when she was 17. Sleeps around to improve her self-esteem, but it only makes her feel worse. Chubby from her diet of fast food and microwave meals. Aborted her black baby last year. Shouldn't you guys be happy about that? Claims she's bisexual, but it's only dated men. Damaged hair from over dyeing. I mean, here's the thing. The hair's already dead. I know you can damage it, but uses fake tanner so dark she looks Mexican. Damn. Wears clothing that barely fits her. Damn, because she's fat. Is only attracted to black men. Works minimum wage job because her gender study degree didn't get her anywhere. Listen, I'll read this in a second. Hey, we'll read this in a second. But who's hotter out of the two? Come on. Even if she dressed exactly like her, you're gonna take her fat friend? Is it? Like, no. So, you would have dogged on this lady even if she looked like this. Come on. This lady's just trying to find herself. She's in her finding herself phase. You know what? They are so rude to women who are not perfect 10s, They are so rude to non-model women when they look uglier than this woman. They have less experience in life than this woman, and that's what scares them. Let's see this, because this lady has never had sex except for that one time, which is okay. Loves her natural face and only wears light makeup. She still wears makeup, though. Her husband works to support her staying at home and raising the kids. Bro, where? Where? So this lady is just missing a husband that will work for her. Okay. In her 20s, but is already married with kids. Loves her family, race, and country in that order. Interesting. Race before country. Natural hair with highlights from the sun. Natural tan for her outdoor lifestyle, wears modest and feminist clothes. I mean, this is as feminine as you can get. Feminine. Slim figure from her healthy homemade meals and active style. But she doesn't work. The husband's working. She's not working. She's a bum rock. This lady works. This lady actually has some responsibility. Homeschools her kids so they're not taught progressive BS in students. Yeah. Knowledgeable about her European. I'd like to see that. I'd like to see this 20-year-old who never went to post-secondary knowledgeable about her European roots. At least I would actually believe that this lady is more knowledgeable about European roots than this. Fact, let's see this. Okay, let's cut out the work. Let's cut out the self-esteem, the low self-esteem, because she's gonna have a lovely husband. Could be a black man. Married, she doesn't need an abortion. She could use fake tanner. She could dye her hair like that. She could wear clothes like that to get the black gentleman she's interested in. But you cut out the minimum wage, cut out the bisexual because she's married, cut out the abortion because she's married, cut out the sex, sleeping around because she's married, cut out the makeup because of low self-esteem because she's married and she's going to be getting self-esteem from her husband. You're going to have close to the same person. This lady, look at this. Everything in her life depends around that. That's crazy, bro. They don't see it. Maybe they see it. Maybe this is that power that they were talking about. Look, I can have my woman do that. I would love my woman to not have to go to work ever again. But, you know, we gotta work. We gotta have a dual income. But yeah, look at this. Her husband works to support, so she can stay out. Like, look, this lady, again, got a degree. I don't see any degree here. Actually, I see the anti-degree, which is not taught progress BS in school. So I'm seeing that this lady might even be a better homeschool. Anyways, is there anything good here? I'm sorry, because with this video, they didn't really talk about men's relationship to women. They just talked about men's relationship with the idea of women.
Traditionally, the far right is of far right movements.
If you get Southern, she's
permanently banned on Twitter, like
Lauren Southern got married, became a trad wife, and then got divorced because she saw how bad a trad wife life was. What an idiot, riding those boats trying to attack refugees coming to Canada. What an absolute idiot.
Like I was.
I'm so glad that what happened to her in that marriage happened, because she is such a bad person. She is so bad. She's so bad. It's hard to feel sympathy for someone that evil.
Do not start a new Twitter account. You'll just build.
She did this whole campaign saying that there were no mass graves for Native students. Let's say there are no mass graves. I don't know. I don't know what they did with all those dead kids. But let's say there are no mass graves. Does that mean that residential schools weren't real? Does that mean that residential schools didn't do what residential schools did? What are you trying to prove by saying that there's no mass graves? What does the mass grave prove? What does the mass grave have anything to do with the abduction of children? This is what I'm curious about. This is why Lauren Southern is such a garbage person, to invalidate really Canada's Holocaust. Canada's Holocaust, for sure. What they did to the Native American communities. Duncan Campbell Scott was he the head of Indian Affairs? I'm not so sure. But I believe he was the head of Indian Affairs at the time. And he was writing these stupid poems, not good. Anyways, writing these texts as well about how Native Americans need to be taken away from their families so that they could be taught how to be like normal. Gave them a curriculum that was for, you'd have a kid who would be in grade 8 learning a grade 2 level. And all the way up to that, they're learning how to like cook and clean. They're cutting their hair off to like as an absolute identity erasure. Kidnapping the kids, maybe letting them come home for summer, but really having them board up with people who would want nothing more than to abuse them by hitting them, by being rude to them, by mistreating them, by worse. We know a lot about the worst, right? Before Gord Downie died, Gord Downie wrote that great book about Cheney Wenjack. I spelled it wrong. There we go. No, that's not what where's the book? Story about Cheney Wenjack. I believe this boy, Cheney Wenjack, he died after getting abused so much. Wait, Gord Downie's secret path gives hope to Cheney Wenjack's sister Pearl. Okay, so obviously, hair cut off, beaten in the school, ran away from the school to avoid getting hit more, dies in the woods. What is Lauren Southern? Sorry, we'll go here.
Of far right.
What is she trying to prove by saying that the mass graves weren't there? What does the mass grave have to do with anything? Because you know what you have now? You have these idiots online saying that no Native person died. Like really just bringing it to the absolute craziest thing, saying that every child matters. The holiday was built off lies. And the lie isn't of just the mass grave. The lie, they're saying, is that mistreatment happened at all. And now, under a Trump presidency, we have people who are saying it's okay to invade Venezuela. Who are saying it's okay to invade other countries. These lives don't matter. They're not white. I guess what we're looking at here cares about her family, race, and then country. This is all about the race. And that's what she's showing. Because really she doesn't didn't care about Canada. She wanted to break into the mainstream in America. Rebel media was not as big as all of those appearances that she was doing on Destiny and with other people in that skeptosphere previously mentioned.
Movements.
If you get permanently banned on Twitter like I was, do not start a new Twitter account. You'll just build up your platform again and get kicked off again. Just move to Gab and Minds.
In Italy, the far-right politician Giorgia Meloni has just made history.
Tonight, Italy is preparing for its first ever female prime minister.
In France, Marine Le Pen, head of the far-right National Rally, has established herself as the leading rival to President Emmanuel Macron.
Le Pen is known for her far-right stances like restricting immigration and banning Muslim women from wearing headscarves in public.
Have women...
It's all vice signaling, bro. Does it really matter?
Women actually become a secret weapon.
You know what? They have to sell their message on hate. I think there is a reasonable discussion that could be had about limiting immigration. It's a tough discussion because it's going to require all hands on deck to substitute for the lack of manpower. I think you could, but these idiots have to sell it on hate. And that's why this idea is always getting hated on by libs, when it really could be sold to libs. Saying that Bill Clinton said it in the 90s is not going to cut the mustard.
For the far right. Women on the far right have emerged as major social media presences, becoming leading influencers of the radical right.
I blame feminism for the reaction to what's going on and for the perpetuation of what's
Jesus, girl, get your mouth fixed.
going on. And
if you're gonna be hateful, if you're not gonna be hateful, you know. No, I don't know. Why is she talking like this?
why this migration, this mass migration into Europe has gotten so bad.
Lana.
What does an American know about?
Loktev made her name.
This is the dumb guy. This is the dumb guy we saw.
Name spreading race.
What is it? Red Ice TV? Yeah, this is the guy. This is the guy who's the useful idiot. Yeah, maybe he's a little more than the useful idiot.
Racist and anti-Semitic conspiracy theories through the white supremacist media channel she runs with her husband.
Let me run through a few other European classics coming out that
like
replace the main white character.
Loktev has been clear about the unique roles she believes women should and should not play.
By the way, bro, these replacing the main character, like Professor Snape's black in the new Harry Potter. You're gonna watch the new Harry Potter, and if you were gonna watch the new Harry Potter and you're not gonna watch it because there's a black guy, were you really that interested in it? Are you really so hung up on that guy being black? He's a professor of the dark arts. Come on.
Within far-right movements.
Although I think women are too emotional for leading roles in politics,
True.
this is the time for female nationalists.
No. You have periods. I don't even know what you're doing on this stage.
To be loud. Why? Men. Women have a special power to inspire and motivate men.
And this is why sex is always suppressed in a fascist system. Girl, go off.
If this, traditionally attractive woman with blonde hair and, a red lip, it somehow it's supposed to seem less odious when they talk about, white superiority, but it's about putting a certain veneer. It's also absolutely about recruitment.
Yes, it's certainly true that the presence of women kind of humanizes and also...
Jared Taylor. This guy grew up in Japan. His dad moved everywhere in the army, and he's like, well, Japan only has Japanese people. Why can't white people only live with white people? And you know what? White people can only live with white people. But they make it this big. They fetishize this whole thing. Like, yeah, we're just white people here. I don't have to see a single dark skin. And because they just fetishize it, we can't have it. Come on. If you're getting off to only seeing white neighbors, we gotta cool you down, because you're gonna hurt someone. These people, they want to have first class, second class. If they were just, everything was first class, white, and they just happen to be white people living together, there's no issue. It's the fetishizing of having it just be a white-only space.
Also almost justifies a movement.
Yeah, it makes it softer to hear. It's easier for people to hear hard.
This guy has that stuffy academic voice. Yes, and as you'll see, my time in Japan was quite fitting.
Message when it's a soft, good-looking woman saying it. It's just
showing the ways in which there's actually more familiarity, more similarity.
I want Jared Taylor
between
to voice a cartoon
what the far right believes and what mainstream conservatives believe. I think is really crucial.
There's one key demographic in particular to whom female far-right influencers appear to have a special appeal, and that's other women.
The majority of white women voted for Trump. So I think the media is trying to spin it that, oh my God, all these women are feminists now. I think the majority are not feminists. And when you actually talk to women.
Does this have to do with the feminist march? I know it says march. That was in New York. And there was all that discussion that half the women voted for Trump, half the women did not, and who is this march really representing?
Women and say, well, what does that really mean? You find that the majority of them are actually quite traditional.
The irony is that Locktiff and other far-right influencers spend much of their time railing against the feminist movement that won women the right to a public political voice in the first place.
I think of women back then not being able to vote and having the whole...
But these guys are in a, these guys would be in a separate class than normal women, right? So they would feel that their position was protected. I'd like to see their position be challenged. I don't know how they would act. I almost wonder if their position would ever be challenged, because having a woman speak to other women would be an invaluable asset.
Oh, one house, one vote thing. Why would you marry a man who wouldn't vote in your best interest or you wouldn't agree with politically to begin with?
They sort of position themselves, or they have this posture of, as a woman, I can speak to what feminism really is. Women who feel threatened by it, women who don't see a place for themselves, they think that feminism has made the world a worse place. They think that it is ultimately an anti-woman project. They also describe partnership and motherhood as political action, because when your whole project is about guaranteeing the future of whiteness, fulfilling all of that is a matter of politics.
It's 3 years.
Awesome. Bruh. 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 Bruh.
Embarrassing, bro. It's embarrassing. See, it's kind of fun when people are doing TikTok lives. It's like, oh, you sent a heart. I'll write your name on my face. You know, that's kind of fun because it's a community thing. This is embarrassing, bro. You're an adult. Is this edgy? You know, they never say anything edgy. You know, I say a lot of edgy things. You know, I gotta kind of censor myself while I'm recording, but I say a lot of edgy things. Saying fuck Islam is not edgy. That is the definition of, like, what would you call it? Wuss, loser, scaredy cat. You kidding me, bro? Embarrassing. Lauren, you're embarrassing. And, you know, elephant in the room, right? As the elephant knows. Elephant in the room. Mel was a lot better, you know. Mel, Destiny's ex-wife, you know, Destiny cheated on his ex-wife, Florence Southern. Even though they were in a poly-open relationship. I never saw Mel do anything this embarrassing.
All right, that looks great. Now,
does it look great, though? Does it really look great? Is this what you're going for? The uneven look? The M that's almost invisible? You know, I can't even see that M. It's right by your ear. You know what I mean? It's not very visible.
this is complete. You're done. You've got this cute, ad-friendly makeup look.
Oh, it was a joke.
Figures like the Canadian alt-right star, Lauren Southern, operate as independent, empowered entrepreneurs and consciously use the same social media strategies as other online influencers to build their following.
Underestimated the amount of people that were going to be here. I said there was only going to be 1,000. There are thousands. Hey, it's someone who watches the channel. How's it going?
Alongside the anti-feminist rhetoric from influencers has been the growth of an entire online subculture known as tradwives, who actively
Anon, I want to make mixed babies with you. What?
Reject pursuing their own careers or independence.
Bro, no. Millennia thinker? He's not like this, bro. He's not like a crazy alt-right guy at all. He is incredible. He makes incredible stories. He is not this guy, okay? Do not think that he's a far-right guy.
In favor of raising families and submitting to their husbands.
Dude, don't listen to this narrative of feminism that is killing white Western society.
Bro, we don't need you in our white Western society, okay? You're good. You can retire.
Don't buy into it.
The trad movement is this movement to celebrate women who are in traditional roles. You are creating content that celebrates that, you know.
I would watch this all day long. Are you kidding me? By the way, she is looking like Joan Cusack, I believe. I would say she's looking like Joan Cusack. And this guy's looking like Sylvester Stallone, maybe. Maybe in the face. He looks like someone in the face, in that chin. Anyways, I'd watch this all day long. I like this. I don't want to live this. This sucks. My wife and I are, we're hotter than these guys. Our house is better. We have cooler stuff. And we have so many TVs right there. Like, we don't drink. We got other stuff to pass the time. You know what I mean? Like, I'll watch this all day long. This is very cool. But to want to live like this, that sucks. No one wants to live like this. This sucks. And their curtains suck.
Highlights how good the trad life is. It's making traditional gender roles seem appealing.
Bro, no one can read. Don't show me a book and then tell me that these incels think that they can read a book. Listen, reading a form is so much different than reading a book.
Seem cool, seem a part of the future.
That's actually
But if you
sick.
really spend time with it, and you look at some of these, you know, Instagram accounts or TikToks, what you'll realize is it's as much about what it's against as what it's for.
Thank you for not being ashamed to be traditional, to be Christian, to be...
Did she have a stroke?
...conservative, and to be white.
She's talking... Look at that. She's talking like a bad guy from an old-timey mafia movie. Do I have a cigarette? No, I don't smoke. Let's roll up one of these. This was from my last video. She's talking like... she's talking like what I... The smuggling will go along perfectly. Hey, you talked to Mr. Capone? She looks great with her hair like that, though. Good for her. And you know what? She has more viewers than I do. I'm punching up.
Shame to be traditional, to be Christian, to be conservative, and to be white.
I'm feminine, not feminist, right? And so seeding these ideas that, you know, you want to be like...
By the way, I'm feminine, not feminist. What a useless distinction. These people are just making up definitions as they go.
Me, you know, look how great my life is. Children love me. Men love me. Like, look how...
Oh my God, look at that kid. That kid's like a...
you know, look how great my life is. Children love me. Men love me.
Look at that kid. That kid will mess you up. That's a strong kid.
Like, look how celebrated I
dad.
am in comparison to... Right? You'll start to see the ways in which being trad is also...
By the way, aren't most of these like far-right ladies like childless? And the ones with children can't debate? Like Andrew Wilson's wife?
So about being anti-something, not just pro-tradition.
Millennial thinker lampoons this, okay? That's why they're using his stuff. He uses Wojaks and he gets the tone just right.
But anti-progress. No role could be more important in the far right than being someone who is willing to uphold a society of traditional gender roles and to have children and raise.
Yes, because you are contributing to the fascist system. She just said it. That's so perfect. Women have a cog into raising the next generation to oppress and be oppressed in these ways. To live like the men who are setting up the systems. To live like the objects of the men who set the system up. I love this.
Raise children within that society.
In Europe, two examples stand out of female politicians leading far-right parties to mainstream acceptance. In France, Marine Le Pen took over her father's far-right anti-immigration party in 2011 and immediately set about trying to soften its hardline image, taking it from the margins to become a major opposition party.
Je contrôlerai l'immigration et rétablirai la sécurité pour tous.
Far-right movements and parties, first of all, are highly strategic, and secondly, are highly opportunistic. Women are essentially a tool to that end.
Bro, she wanted to play that game, and then she got dogged by Trump.
Women are...
She wants to be far-right.
Essentially
dogged by Trump,
a tool to that end. Women are seen as having a better entree into that process of detoxification.
There will be, in these immigrants, terrorists.
Marine Le Pen is a...
Like, it's just lazy, bro. There's terrorists in your country right now who are white, who are saying that they're terrorists.
Very smart and adept politician. She wants to project racist ideas to potential voters, but she also sees that there's a boundary, and if she goes too far, that would start costing her voters instead of adding voters.
Le Pen has even tried to co-opt feminist arguments, pitching her anti-immigrant rhetoric as a defense of women's rights.
A day after the allegations of mass sexual assault were made public, Cologne continues to search for the perpetrators and for answers.
On New Year's Eve 2015, large numbers of women were sexually assaulted by groups of male immigrants at celebrations in Cologne and other German cities. Far-right parties immediately seized on this to amplify panic about the so-called European migration crisis that year.
An estimated 1,700 white women.
Damn, that's rough, bro. I see their point.
Demonstrators protested Germany's liberal immigration policy after more than 20 migrants were arrested for allegedly assaulting women on New Year's Eve.
Le Pen herself wrote an editorial claiming that immigration from Africa and the Middle East was a threat to women's rights in Europe.
The fact that Marine Le Pen uses women's rights in some arenas and doesn't use women's rights in other arenas is a perfect example of how that's an opportunistic strategy. It's a tool to say, I want to attack ethnic minorities, I'm going to attack them using this tool.
In Italy, there's been a similar process of female-led detoxification, with Giorgia Meloni leading the far-right Brothers of Italy, which has roots in Italian fascism, to become the largest party in parliament.
Moi, je crois que Mussolini, c'était un bon politicien.
The 45-year-old firebrand insists she's no fascist, just a proud conservative and nationalist.
And unlike Marine Le Pen, Giorgia Meloni doesn't use feminism in order to gain votes.
I see the woke ideology. Will we surrender in front of this?
In fact, she openly rails against modern feminism, instead championing so-called traditional family and gender roles, despite herself having faced the stigma of being an unwed mother.
Sí a la familia natural. No a los lobby LGBT.
And no single moms.
Meloni's, like virtually all far-right politicians, extremely contradictory. Some parts of feminism work for her as a politician. At the same time, absolutely interested in using anti-LGBT, anti-women's rights, anti-welfare for immigrant rights rhetoric when it suits her. Very important to realize that women are not politically a monolith now or in history. We create our own peril by failing to understand how central women can be in the far right if we have blinders on that make us think that far right is a man's terrain and progressive politics is a women's terrain.
And guess what? Now we're pissed. And we have very good reason.
They called this lady Big Red. Absolute memeable lady, right? The hell is this lady? This lady's skin is red. She's a little bit of rouge. This lady's skin is red, bro. Is she trying to be the next Big Red?
Reason to be pissed. And I hope you're not twisting this for your liberal media.
I hope not either. I hope what I'm hearing is the real deal.
Influencers use the platforms won for them by feminist pioneers to attack feminism itself. But as long as they keep pulling in votes and online clicks, no one on the far right is going to get too hung up on these hypocrisies.
That's probably a good video. Okay, sorry, I just want to go back to the comments here. It's insane how many people hold having sex on a huge pedestal as if it will somehow make them a better person or give them status. This is high school mentality, right? Oh, you didn't have sex? You didn't do the adult thing? It's all high school mentality. It blows my mind how many people look outwards when issues arise in their lives and think that they're the victim. Selfishness and a lack of empathy will be our downfall. Yes, they are totally connected by the internet. I'm 22 years old and still a virgin. That sounds not too extreme. Nothing weird or wrong with that. Except, of course, when you think somehow that is wrong and women are to blame, then you are very weird. We are at the point in our culture where the host has said toxic misogyny because some guys are going to be so reactive to hearing misogyny. What's the non-toxic misogyny? It's a rhetorical question, because if you engage with it seriously, you're just examples of misogyny being toxic, because it is. It's true, right? Like, toxic misogyny is toxic masculinity, right? It's a form of toxic masculinity. The epidemic of loneliness and frustration turning into hate and anger is really scary. There has to be a way this can be stopped. Actually wild that some of these dudes feel so personally attacked by not getting laid or having a girlfriend. Now, this video didn't really go into like how they meet. None of the videos that we watched today really, talked about, I don't know, these people interacting with women. Interacting with the idea of, I got rejected every year in high school by every boy I asked out, probably because they're virgin incels. Hell, I got rejected from a dance at prom, and yet did not feel the world was out to get me or against me, or that I needed to murder people. People need to learn how to take rejection, learn self-confidence that doesn't involve putting others down, and just be good people. Like, the nerdiest guys I know have girlfriends or get laid a bunch, not because they're super hot, but because they have a good personality, are interesting, and have a hobby or two. You treat sex as the be-all end-all, you'll be greatly disappointed. I mean, even if you are treating sex like the be-all end-all and you're having sex, you'll still be disappointed. Yes, sex in itself can be a great experience, but like any drug, the after effects wears off. If you put sex on a pedestal, you'll never gain fulfillment. Too many people confuse sex as a form of validation of love, and these people sound like they're not even looking for love. In the video, it most certainly isn't. It's a validation of lust and animal attraction. That's it. When people aren't taught properly about sex, it's no surprise that people will have misguided views of it. Education, especially about sex, is very important. I want to go back to this. It's not a validation of love. These people aren't looking for validations of love. These people are looking for validation of status, and the status that they're looking for can only be achieved by them having said that they've had sex, and the more sex the better, but not with the same person. If you have sex with the same woman 10 times, you are not as valuable as the man who had sex with 10 different women once. From men like Elliot, their self-worth is often built entirely around their ability to attract women to have sex. In the same way, a lot of women build self-worth around being pretty. So for Elliot, it wasn't about sex, constant sex or sexual pleasure, but the threat of his ego, confidence, and value as a male. That's what I just said. If you read Elliot's manifesto, he had a gigantic ego and felt like he was better than others, but also felt his lack of a badge. They can have sex once, bro, and that will at least bring him into the hierarchy of sex, made him feel beneath all other men. This was unfair to him. How dare he, who was actually secretly better than everyone else, not get basic man value of sex awarded to him? He felt he had literal rights that were being denied, and that right was worth murder. Very sad. It reminds me of the one pickup artist who wrote in the famous book called The Game. Later, he realized he was just acting out his childhood wounding, and therapy and inner work helped him realize how messed up and unfulfilling what he was doing was. Sex ain't all great. Heck, I have it every day. What's the big deal with these guys? If you're poor, just buy a house, bro. I don't know what that means. One day before the Plymouth shooting, the guy uploaded a video talking about his life. He posted it on a YouTube on YouTube, but shared it on Reddit as well, on a page I used frequently. I genuinely felt bad for the guy, but after I heard about what he did, I have no remorse for him. It's one thing to have issues and another thing to take innocent lives because of your problems. Far right is the source of chaos. Far right supporters are not just dumb, but they're also violent. Oh, here. Elliot Rodgers was very attractive, rich, and had a famous dad, so for no one to want him, he must have had a personality that was absolutely intolerable for him to be around or overlooked. And I guarantee you, if he was that bad with women, he likely didn't have many male friends either, because incels on the besides incels on the internet, no one could tolerate to be around him. Very, very true. He literally would attack women and got his ass beat when he tried to hurt